Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show you, I was telling you before, is notice here we had this levy here that was not raised because he only provides 10% of his total troops. This is that Duke that hates us. So he only provides 10%, but he's got 793 plus his garrison, which equals a little more, about 1,700 troops. But the attacker has more than 7,600 troops, and therefore, if you hit the toggle screen here, this is going to start going down below that, but also this defender number is going to go down until 0, which then will allow him to take this county holding. Alright, so the only way to decrease the number of defenders in the county holding is to have more attackers. Otherwise, you will never take this. It'll just stagnate. It'll just stay like this, 100%, 100%. You'll take some coin, but that's about it. And how you can do that is here. Alright. Notice this little skull right here? That originates from the fact supply. So you can only have 25,000 troops here before you start suffering attrition, which we have going on. You can also suffer attrition from fighting like winter time and winter weather. So if you look at the weather here, that sort of thing. And then these different landscapes here have a direct impact on your battle modifiers. So here, he is on a river, so we're going to suffer a modifier fighting in the river. And it's plains, so he won't get any additional bonuses from that. But if he were to fight us in the hills here, he would get a defensive modifier from that. Same thing for fighting in a forest or something like that. Plains are really good for heavy cavalry. So if you have a heavy cavalry force, you're going to want to fight in the plains as much as possible. If you're pikemen, which is tends to be the Scots, you actually want to fight in woods and forested areas. They do best in forested areas. But now we're going to go up here fight him. How do you change your commanders? We just go here. You can split your forces. So right now we are lumped together in one big blob. But if we wanted to kind of do two-way, so by the way, one of the things I want to show you here is notice here we go this. Dunbar, Cumbria, and Teviotdale are the three counties where if you were to attack from those counties, you would suffer the river penalty. However, if you attack from Durham, you can see it's not listed here, which means we would not get the river penalty. And so he would actually not get any defensive modifiers because it's plains and we're not going across a river to do that. Siege speed, by the way, siege speed, notice down here. Let's see here, does it show you for him? It does not. But your technology tab and siege equipment will dictate how quickly you can siege a defender, as well as your ability to withstand a siege, so making the siege take longer. But say we want to split this army. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can do it literally right up the gut, so split in half. So let's say we just do that for the sake of argument. So we got King William, King Baldwin, and Onslow, and he's going to go that way. And then this guy, we need commanders. So these little swords up here means they're already leading a force. That doesn't add up, but anyways. But then what we would do is, if you don't have any more commanders to lead your troops, then maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to split your forces, right? But let's just do that for a sec. Okay, so they're in Cumbria right now. They're going to siege, right? Now, say we had this army right here, and we wanted to adjust. Think of this. Think of things this way. Think of this as 3 armies, okay? Because in battle, they're going to fight separately until their direct opposition is defeated. So in this case, you've got 4,000 troops in this army, and this army, and they will only assist the center, and the center will only assist this, and vice versa, and so on and so forth, until their actual direct opposition is destroyed. Now this will tell you the subunits. So this is, we got this many units here. He's missing. Interesting. Okay. So how do we affect what's in these different units? Remember we talked about archers. This guy is what culture? He's Norman. He's Norman. So we're not going to care about the archery so much. But we are Norman right now. Let's embrace Anglo-Saxon culture. Alright. So now we're in Anglo-Saxon, which means we're going to get bonuses to archery, and we need more archers because we only have 62. How do we fix this? Well, if you went to the, I click this little tab here, this arrow right here, see how these are troops lined up here, and click this arrow. That'll give you the full breakdown of each, basically vassal or baron, however you want to articulate it, that falls under each particular army. So we'll just look through here and we say, hey, I want some more archers, so let's see, who's got a lot of archers? So this guy's got a lot of archers, so let's give him to William. There we go. He lost troops, so now we want to give him more troops. So let's give him a bunch of... heavy infantry. We're going to lose 15 archers, but we can give him more heavy infantry. Let's see, this guy's got any, like, let's see who's got more, another archer heavy. This guy right here. So notice again, he's a bishop. The reason that's important is that bishops and churches will give you different unit composition than castles or cities or towns, which I'll show you after we get down. They'll be kind of like the very tail end of this video. But if you want a largely archer composition army, then you're going to want a lot of bishops, a lot of churches, those sort of things, in addition to the buildings that you build. Right? So we'll go take him 67. And then, so he's got 45,000, I got 41. Maybe he wants, let's see, this guy got any? So he's got just a couple of really big guys under him, so that's why he's only got 4 here. He's got 4, and then we've got 6. Right. So now we have 213 archers instead of the measly little number that we had before. And then this just kind of does around the world, so give him back. Alright. Or you can do auto balance. So it really just depends on your playstyle. So again, how do we do that? We started off with, you know, a big blob army. Each one's an army, right? We didn't like the fact that our now Anglo-Saxon king, who's going to trigger potentially archer-related special triggers, didn't have very many archers. So we went and did this little button here, reorganize army. And you can see here that he had 4 basically vassals in this army. He had 6 vassals in this army. He has 4. We went this way and said, hey, you know what? This vassal needs to go over here. This vassal needs to go there, blah, blah, blah. Until we had more archers. Okay. And then what you can do is you choose a command that's going to lead these subunits. So obviously you want your commander, you want a commander to lead the top army, right? But then if you have the realm organization that allows you to have a whole boatload of commanders, then maybe what you want to do is under here, under William, being like, you know what, I'm going to grab this guy and we're going to make him a, you know, commander. Or whatever, right? So to kind of further strengthen that particular army, so you have more than just 2 commanders leading this particular army, you have, you know, 3 or 4, right? So hopefully that helped explain how to kind of compose your army and how it maybe affect battle mechanics before you go in. Finally, before we actually go into this battle, there's going to be a couple other things. So now these combat skills are huge. So 25 is a huge number, 23 is huge, 20 is huge. I consider 12 or higher decent, right? So if you have 12 to 16, that's pretty good. The reason I say that is typically you need a marshal of 10 or 12 to trigger a lot of the special attacks that you want. So for example, we've got this skill called this trigger called a religious fervor attack, and your guy needs to have a marshal of 14 to get like an added possibility of triggering that, and then have either the inspiring leader trait like this here. So he could trigger a religious fervor attack because he has inspiring leader. And then because he also has a marshal of 25, which is much higher than 14, he's even more likely to trigger this religious fervor attack, which gives you a morale damage of 15, morale defense. But it also gives you heavy infantry offensive of 150%. Basically every single unit you have on the battlefield gets 150% offensive when this triggers in battle. Or if you have a leader who's possessed or is zealous, that would be another way to trigger the religious fervor attack. So again, use the link that I provided in the narrative description to pull up all these different effects that you could trigger in battle, just so you can kind of maybe predict the different things that may happen depending on how you construct your army. Again, because we're Anglo-Saxon, we know that there's a culture-specific tactic that triggers archery, and so that's why we would try to give him as many archers. But let's do this battle real quick. Okay, so now there's 3 phases of battle. There's the skirmish phase, which usually lasts about 10 to 15 days. There's the melee phase, which again lasts another 10 to 15 days, and there's the pursuit phase. And each phase involves different types of troops. The skirmish phase, which is what we're in right now, entails archers and basically light infantry. Your heavy infantry stave back. They're not actually involved in this right now. So this is important to know, because the defensive aspects of these different units is going to play a big part in how things shape up. So if you have a lot of archers in your army and a lot of light infantry in your army, the skirmish phase is going to be the most important phase for you. So if you're not able to really take out a heavy number of your enemy in the skirmish phase, so as like the British or the Welsh, if you're using the Anglo-Saxon culture-specific abilities with your archers, if you're not able to do a lot of damage in the skirmish phase, then you're going to have to rely on your heavy infantry in the melee phase, which is what they get involved in, them and pikemen, to kind of do the damage. So think of it this way: light units are involved in the skirmish phase, and as far as offense, and then the melee phase, your heavy infantry and your pikemen and your heavy cavalry are involved in that offensive phase, and then the pursuit phase is your light archer or your light cavalry primarily. Okay, so light cavalry is actually very important to have. So you have 2,000 for running down the enemy after their morale breaks. So if this guy breaks and he's in this pursuit phase, the number of cavalry that we have, light cavalry we have in here, is going to dictate how many of his troops we kill while he's running away. Which is important because I'm playing with the modifier at the beginning of the game. Gives you the option to allow the unit to regroup. You can't basically... It used to be in the old Crusader Kings 2 game, once you broke an army, once they went to the next adjoining county, you could just basically hit them again and again and again, and because their morale was already broken, you could basically destroy them, so battles were one and done. I'm playing where they can actually retreat and regroup, and so you can actually hit them for a couple counties, and so it gives them a chance to regroup. So light cavalry is actually more important now, because if you don't have sufficient troops built for the pursuit phase, you might not actually do a whole lot of damage to them. They may break and run, but for the most part, the army will remain intact. So notice here, if you click these flags here, it'll tell you the flank composition. So super detail if you really want it. Now we are William. We did not get so far the archery tactic. Notice here, these are this is basically archers are shooting each other. In skirmish phase, their armies will stay at a distance, right? So that's why archers are so important. Archers, horse archers, and light cavalry excel. And you'll be able to watch it here. So the Castle of Buckingham, his army, he's got a defense of 17,000. So again, you can kind of go through this if you really want the nuts and bolts of things. And this here is going to tell you how long this is going on for. So now see, he's got a volley tactic. So that's really good for him. He must be he's Scottish, so they're going to be pikemen is going to be their trigger. It's culture specific ability. But he's getting a bonus here to the different options available because he's doing a archery attack of 200% for the volley, whereas his other offensive things aren't going to be very much. But for archers, that's really good, right? Whereas our guys are doing shield wall tactic, and so this was triggered because they have lots of heavy infantry in their ranks. And so this decreases the amount of damage you're going to take in the skirmish phase, and the goal being is you want to get through the 10-15 days so you then can go to the melee phase, which will happen here shortly. Alright, melee phase. So we are now in the melee phase. The armies are locked in close combat. We got the charge tactic. So I don't know how many heavy cavalry we actually have. We have 14. So again, this is why it's important, right? That your culture-specific tactics, or the tactics that your commander is likely to trigger, which is based on your personality. So if you have Wrath, you're more likely to charge into battle headstrong, headlong, those kind of things. If you don't have the right unit composition for your commander, he'll trigger these awesome things, but you may not have the type of troops in your army that'll be able to maximize it. Now we do have 120% from heavy infantry, so that helps, right? But this charge tactic is more like what you're going to want to get from the Normans or the French, who typically are going to want to have a lot of heavy cavalry, right? Now these guys, though, are still in the skirmish phase, so that's actually not good for them because he doesn't have as many archers as he used to, because we took them and put them here, and he's still getting hit with the volley tactic. Okay, so he's still doing volley. So now he broke. So now notice he broke, right? So now he switched over to here to attack him, to assist him. And we got a harass. So light cavalry attack. That's big because we have a lot of light cavalry. We have 507. So that helps. And you got volley, so archer attack plus 200%. Charge! So that'll be something that happens to your personal combat skill. You want to make sure that you've got a formidable fighter or some traits like that, because if you get in battle on the battlefield, chances are you may come into a potential melee duel situation. And if you don't have a high combat martial skill, or you don't have like formidable fighters, some traits like that, it's possible you may die on the battlefield, which then decreases the morale of the of your forces. So now notice how they switched over, right? So first the battle started with the armies directly opposing. He then went over and helped him. He's now fleeing. He's off the battlefield. And then now he's left. So it's really important with this. With these, he's harassing. And now pursuit. All right. So now pursuit phase can be dictated by your knights and your light cavalry. So knights are melee and pursuit. So again, if you don't have a lot of knights or a lot of light cavalry, then we may have won this battle, but he may have gotten away with, say, 6,000 troops. Instead of 4 or 3. He started off with 7,000, so then he'd be able to go back, regroup, and then maybe come out and hit us again. Now notice this: as you fight through combat, you'll actually get additional traits that are bonuses to you. So we can do this. We can change organizer. I just grabbed that one, and really there's no strategy behind it. But now look, we're in pursuit. So let's see here. Pursue tactic plus 100%, 100%, and 100%. Alright, and so we got organizer, so now we have another combat modifier, plus movement speed and retreat, and so you can pick those. Okay, so that in a nutshell is how the battle system works. Again, you go oppositions, each one's its own army, the martial skill, as well as the, as you can see here, the personality traits. Along with the actual combat modifiers, dictate the kind of combat triggers and tactics that happen during the battle. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at, hey, what kind of culture is my leader, and try and structure an army that maximizes those culture-specific things. For example, there's a longbow volley that the English can use at some point. I don't know if it's like right now in this game or later. The Normans are going to get the heavy cavalry, so you can get culture-specific tactics that enhance your knights and your heavy cavalry. And then if you're like the Norse or the Northern Germanic, maybe you get the berserker charge tactic that's pretty devastating. And then you're going to have 3 phases of battle. So you get the skirmish, you get the melee, and you have the pursuit. The skirmish is going to be your light, so your light infantry, your light cavalry perhaps, and then definitely your archers is the main one in that pursuit, or the skirmish phase. And then all the other triggers you get are defensive, right? So you'll take less damage in that skirmish phase. try and get past that so you can get to the melee phase, which is going to be your pikemen, your heavy infantry, and your heavy cavalry, and then your pursuit, which is going to be your heavy cavalry and your light cavalry. And again, see, this guy's got 5,000, so we only killed 2,000 troops, so he might get back here, even though we hit him with 12,000. Get back here, regroup, and then hit us again, because we weren't able to maximize that pursuit phase. And then finally, if you were to hit this new unit, basically instead of splitting it in half, you can just create a new unit altogether. So we could send 29 troops off to somewhere else, or however we wanted to do it. Click and drag just to do that. Alright, so hopefully that helps a little bit help you understand army composition, how to wage war through force of arms, and then your battle mechanics. Finally, I just want to leave on a note here. Notice too that the county capital that you have will also, as well as your barons, will dictate the type of troops they provide you. So notice here, he has mostly heavy infantry. So castles are going to give you mostly heavy infantry, whereas bishops and churches are going to give you mostly archers. They're going to give you mostly light troops. They're going to give you a lot of skirmish troops. Castles are going to give you mostly the melee type troops. And then cities are going to give you just kind of a little bit of everything, like the least of everything, but it's going to be balanced. So notice they give you archers and pikemen, but no heavy infantry. It's also going to be a lot fewer too, because cities are for money. They're not for fielding troops. So keep that in mind as well in terms of counties you want to take over, or what you want to, or how you want to construct your realm. Maybe instead of having this as a castle, you want to make this a church-led county to increase the number of archers you would get from here. And so we'd maybe make this guy give him the county of Warwick, which if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you just click him, grant county of Warwick. So that now is a church, because he was a bishop, and we give it to him. So now he has this castle down here, but notice archers instead of lots of heavy infantry. Alright, so that's how you do that too. And then, again, if you're interested in money, you would just say, hey, let's make this guy, let's give him Wessex, and so forth. And that would make that a city county holding, which means lots more money but less troops, and so forth. So hopefully I covered this pretty well. If you have any questions about the battle mechanics, I think that's the most complicated because it's the most unpredictable. Believe it or not, there are ways for you to influence what happens in battles. You just have to kind of be aware of character traits, how those affect things. It's like cruel, morale damage plus 10, plus there's also a battle tactic that could possibly trigger from a character who's cruel. I figure what that is off the top of my head, but in the description, if you click that combat tactics link, it'll tell you what cruel characters, what could be triggered as far as a combat tactic. And then obviously you want these too, right? You want these martial skill combat personality trait modifiers. And then heavy infantry, so you don't obviously want him with lots of heavy infantry to take advantage of this trait here, and so forth. So with that, thanks for watching, guys. Hope it was helpful. If you have any more questions, please put comments in there or send me a message, and maybe I can vet it out with another tutorial. Otherwise, please like, please subscribe. As always, truly appreciate your guys' time, and as always, see ya on the flip side.